Tonight on WCW Nitro, we have made a bit of a culling of the herd backstage. We've sacked a lot of people, and what impact that will have on tonight's show, and also what impact our random booker will have on tonight's show, well, you're about to find out. Hello and welcome back to Spike Piledriver. My name is Anders, and this is the WCW 2000 save on Total Extreme Wrestling 9. If you enjoy the save, make sure you are subscribed. I know a lot of you are, but a lot of you aren't yet, so please do so. It will help the channel. Like the video as well and share it around with all of your friends. And without any further ado, let's go and see what our random booker wants us to do. A loser doesn't leave town. Have a loser leaves town match, but have the loser return next week and don't mention it again. Good, we can do that. Let's go do that. Who can we get out of? Let's put that into our love triangle storyline between Rey Mysterio, David Flair, and Miss Hancock. I think that seems like a very fair thing to do. So we've got David Flair in a love triangle. Well, he's kind of in a love quadrilateral, I guess, because there's also Daphne involved. And his crowbar. Not Crowbar the wrestler, his actual crowbar. So we've got this angle happening here. And I think we can add a part 2 to this. So Daphne's come in. How can we say? Who can make the challenge? We'll add that Flair calls out Ray and challenges him to a loser leaves WCW match tonight on Nitro. Simple. I think. So then he's pleading with his girlfriend. So let's put that at the beginning. So we might not even need to. So David Flair calls out Rey Mysterio. Let's give them their full titular names. And challenges him to a loser leaves WCW match tonight. And then pleads with his girlfriend Stacy, formerly Miss Hancock, to not go to the ring with Mysterio in their match tonight. He tries to say sorry, but Daphne walks in and just cackles at them both. Stacy walks away. Flair, yeah, okay, we'll do that. Just simple as that. And then this one can be, is there like a loser leaves match? Is there anything that hang on. We don't want default matches, do we? Let's turn default matches off. Can we just sort of have it as I guess it's really just a singles match, isn't it? It's no specialty. Yeah, we'll just go with that. Okay, cancel changing that segment. I mean, it's a little bit of a vague change, but we've done a lot of stuff backstage. In fact, we might as well cover that now. Can we quickly see WCW news? So these are the people we've released. Asia, Leia Meow, Mark Madden, Michael Buffer, because he's just a lot of money for one appearance every now and then. Midnight's gone, Mr. Jones, so that's... what's his name? Virgil. Symphony, Tigress, a lot of managers who weren't managing people. Jay Biggs, Medusa, Big T, because he's useless. Dave Taylor. Ron Harris is gone because Don Harris was released a while ago after walking out. Granted his release, he requested it. Kevin Sullivan also left a few weeks ago as well, just to mention that. So Mike Rotunda's gone. El Dandy, yes, who am I to doubt him, but he's gone. Alan Funk, JC Ice and Wolfie D both gone. Lenny Lane also, Lodi went a few weeks ago. I don't know if I mentioned that, but he's gone. So Lenny Lane's followed him out the door. Mona, because we haven't got a women's division. The Demon, because we released his girlfriend Asia. The Vianos, Hacksaw, Silver King, Buff Bagwell, because he's a pain in the backside backstage. As is Hugh Morris, so they were both involved in angles and stables, so it's making a bit of an impact. La Parker's gone again, Paul backstage personality, Terry Taylor, and the Cat. So a lot of people who are a bit of a nightmare backstage have gone. Hopefully, that will slowly start to improve our backstage situation. It hasn't so far, but... we make small changes. So we're still abysmal in our locker room morale, but this long list of notable personalities has gone down a little bit. I mean, it's still quite a massive list. And a lot of that is poor morale from the toxic backstage atmosphere. But, you know, we try. Notable relationships is still... Basically, I think if we get rid of Hulk Hogan at some point, and with him, Jimmy Hart and Brian Knobbs, because they're both bad backstage influencers, all three of them go, we can kind of get into a better position. I mean, it looks like the notable relationships that Ric Flair is also a bit of a problem as well. But getting rid of Hogan and Flair in one fell swoop may be a little bit too much. But I think once if we can ever figure out how to get the title off Hogan, once we've done that, bled his popularity. We can't really bleed his popularity onto other people. But another thing to mention with Hogan, before we get into the show, this is a bit of a long way of getting into the show, but looking at his contract, right, he gets a 60% bonus every show he is on, and he's on 300 grand a month. So there's no wonder, if you look at our finances, why ignore the fact so last month we spent basic pay 4 million. Yep, 4 million there. Barely anything on bonuses. Hogan comes in, and we're up to nearly 2 million in bonuses just from Hogan, essentially. We've also spent 2 million to terminate people, but in the long run, that's better. And if it helps the backstage morale improve, we can get better show ratings and slowly start and, do something that's not completely useless. But what we'll do is we'll go through the show now, essentially, and see if we can book a decent Nitro. Right, here we go then. We've made the one change. There's loads of stuff going on. There's lots of angles that have been building because of all of the various random bookers we've got. In fact, do we? No, we won't. We don't need to add an angle of David Flair leaving, do we? We're just going to ignore it next week anyway. In fact, no, yeah. Let's. David Flair is. Oh, that's nice. Flair is escorted from the building with Daphne screaming behind him. There we go. David Flair is gone. Can't type. There we go. We want that to be just 3 minutes. Backstage angle. Yep, save that. We want David Flair. He can be doing some character development. Daphne, some screaming, but we'll just give her some sex appeal because, she's got high sex appeal. So if that helps, that might help. It might not. Who knows? All right, book that. You can go in after here, there. Let's go through the show. 2 hours booked. Let's book Monday Nitro. Right, the show opens up. We're in Texas, by the way. 4,000 people in attendance. WCW Commissioner Ric Flair is recuperating in a hospital bed, but he's still able to run the show. He announces that Sting will be facing Hulk Hogan for the WCW title tonight and not at Uncensored. And after their actions last week, the New World Order are banned from the arena. So that's former world champion Kevin Nash, new US champion Scott Steiner. They're banned from the arena. That's a hot start, a 67 angle to get us moving forward. Right, first match of the night is Sabu defending the hardcore title against Shane Douglas, but a Pittsburgh plunge following interference from the Revolution. With Billy Kidman, Perry Saturn and Dean Malenko all interfering in this hardcore match, gives the hardcore title to Shane Douglas. Sabu was, I think he's still technically injured with his broken toe, but he's been left abandoned by the rest of the Four Horsemen, because I've definitely not forgot that he's a member of the Four Horsemen. I'm sure you haven't either. But Shane Douglas and the Revolution have captured another title. Quite why we've gone from a rating of 45, a crowd rating of 54, and got the segment rating overall of 35. I'm not sure. We'll quickly look at the dirt sheet. I'm going to suggest Sabu's physical condition and the terrible locker room morale have penalised us. Yes, wonderful. Lots of penalties going on. Fantastic. Brings us down to 35 for the segment. Right, moving forward, David Flair calls out Rey Mysterio and challenges him to a loser, leaves WCW match tonight on Nitro. He then pleads with his girlfriend Stacey, who's now the former Miss Hancock, to not go to the ring as she threatened with Rey Mysterio in their match tonight. He tries to say sorry, but Daphne just cackles at them both, and Stacey walks away. Flair is left cuddling his own crowbar. That's not a euphemism, and rocks back and forth as we cut away, and that gets a 32. And then the next match is terrible. I mean, it's better in the ring, but terrible because, well, nobody cares about any of the people involved. But it gets them all on the show. The 3 count of Evan Courageous, Shane Helms, and Shannon Moore defeated the Armstrongs, the reunited brothers, Brad, Scott, and Steve, in a 6-man tag. Shane Helms with a vertebraker gets the victory. And it's a dud, a 12 overall. The crowd are still hot. It's turned off by having them, but it's still hot. Okay, we'll bring them back up. We'll bring them back up with the NWO arriving. The limo pulls up, and the 4 men of the Silver and Black step out, along with Madeja and Shakira. But before they can get into the arena, security and police rush out to them and tell them they are banned from the arena. Nash simply laughs it off, says whatever, he doesn't want to work tonight anyway. He goes back into the limo with Madeja and Shakira, but Steiner, Jarrett and Hall are all pissed off and start attacking security. Multiple men are knocked out with the US title. Guitar is shattered and toothpicks are thrown. Kevin Nash foreshadowed a face turn during this segment. I mean, we've kind of been hinting at it for a few weeks now, but it's now officially foreshadowed. That gets a 47 rating, which is a bit poor. Scott Hall came across well, so there we go. Next up, in the Enmity War Room, Berlin is frustrated as the group is now down to 3, and neither of his remaining comrades are pulling in the same direction. Barbarian just wants to wreck things. Disco just wants to dance. And Berlin is stuck between a rock and a dance floor. Disco tries to get both men to dance with him, but Barbarian doesn't flinch. However, Berlin shows a glimpse of hope. We've hinted at a Disco face turn. We may have also been hinting at a Berlin face turn. We may start boogie nighting soon, but Barbarian not impressed. 37 rating there, and we get an excellent match up next. The new tag team champions who won it last week, the Revolution of Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn, defended against the makeshift team of Kurt Hennig and Dustin Rhodes. Saturn made Rhodes submit with the rings of Saturn, and they made their first defense of the tag team titles. We've got some great hands as tag champions. A 60 match here is phenomenally good, and the crowd are hot. They are white hot after this one. We are doing some good crowd control today. Sting is then with Mean Gene, and he tells him that he's worked hard to overcome every obstacle to get back to the top of the WCW. But tonight is the night that the Stinger becomes champion once again, because it's showtime. Unfortunately, Mean Gene underperformed, but this one gets a 68 rating, which is probably better than the Hogan promo he's going to get following on later. Up next, Canyon is with The Wall, and he tells Kimberly Page that it's been a fun ride, but it isn't working out. Kim's just too much trouble for what she's worth, and he kicks her to the curb. Now, these pair have got some animosity backstage, so I figured it might make sense to just separate them. I'm not really sure where I'm going with the DDP storyline either, so we've not quite finished. And Canyon came to us with an angle idea, so we've used that. The Wall is now Canyon's manager. He's dropped the champagne as well. That's gone this week. 42 is not a bad segment rating, but it could be better. Then we get our Loser Leaves WCW match as Rey Mysterio defeats David Flair following a Super Hurricane Rana. We told a story in this one, which makes sense because we're telling the story of David Flair being kicked out of the company, and Ray does some great work to bring the segment rating up to a 52 overall, which is not a bad effort if you're including David Flair. Good job there, Ray. Moving on, Daphne did some good work at ringside. David Flair's then escorted from the building with Daphne screaming behind him. 30 rating, not too bad. Okay, Madness Inc. then arrive. It's Savage and Bigelow as the last 2 men left. Bagwell is no longer being mentioned. Macho Man tells Mean Gene that he's been let down by the men he chose to have his back, and Bam Bam just shakes his head and walks away, so that's coming. Savage wants a one-on-one match with Benoit tonight, and he doesn't listen when Mean Gene tries to tell him that Benoit isn't the US champion anymore, because he still wants his US title, but never mind, Savage, you're going a bit mad. 50 rating for that one. I'd expect better from Randy Savage, but there we go. Luger is backstage with Liz once again. He tells her that he knows exactly what he needs to do to prove that he is a changed man. He's going to go and find Sting and tell him that he's got his back in his quest for the WCW title. We are ready, not quite, to turn Luger face. I think should we just go for it? Let's go for it. We'll turn him face now. Automatically trigger his waiting gimmick change as well, yes. Now using a badass, it received an initial rating of poor. Okay, likely to raise over time, but there we go. Too many turns have been shocks with little build-up. Fans becoming jaded. Yeah, well, it's WCW. That's what happens. Sorry, yep. Turn didn't go particularly well. Wonderful. Never mind. 43 rating for the segment. We've turned Luger face, though. I don't think we've turned Liz face yet, but There we go. Next up, Booker T has got a match with Bam Bam Bigelow, and he wins it with a scissor kick. It's hampered slightly by Bam Bam having a bruised or sustaining a bruised kidney. Booker T's creative finish that he came to us earlier or last week, I'm not sure, was a success though, so that's pulled it back up. A 44 rating is not too bad. Would have probably expected something a little bit better from these two, but apart from that injury, it maybe would have reached about 50. Bam Bam's sustained a bruised kidney. We'll see how bad that is later on. Then we've got Sid Vicious, who, if you remember last week, turned heel. He's arriving and he's unhappy. Excellent. He's still got grounds for public support, and he gets a 39, which isn't very good either. Then Hulk Hogan, I told you it wasn't going to be as good as Sting's promo. He's with Mean Gene, and he talks about his history with Sting and the many battles they've had for the WCW title, dude. Tonight, the result is the same way it always is. The Hulkster runs wild and retains his title, brother. The NWO aren't here to ruin things, so let the best man win. And it's the Hulkster, because he's got creative control. 56 segment rating for that one. The crowd still very hot. Hogan still has his personal issues. Luger enters the locker room of Sting and tells him that he apologises for his actions and will have his back tonight. But then he doesn't actually realise that it's not Sting he's talking to, it's Vampiro. Not quite sure how he didn't realise that. They look nothing alike. Vamp tells him that words are all well and good, but actions are what proves the man has changed. He advises him to let Sting handle his own business, but be ready if he needs him later on. A 54 segment rating there. The Liz face turn is getting poor reactions. We might end up sacking Liz, honestly. She's not particularly well liked backstage anymore, but we'll see. 54 rating there, and then a great match, finally. This one should have been at the pay-per-view. Randy Savage and Chris Benoit go to war, and ultimately Benoit beats Savage by submission in 8 minutes. A 71 rating. I think that... Is that our best match of the save so far? We'll have to check that at the end of the video. But Savage and Benoit put in a great match. Benoit dragging the performance up, obviously. But a 72 crowd rating as well was nice. But that is a good match. We'll cool the crowd a little bit as the Revolution are backstage in their locker room. All 4 men celebrating with their respective championships. And they crack open the champagne. This is only the beginning. So Douglas is the hardcore champ. Kidman is the cruiserweight champ. Saturn and Malenko are tag team champions. The Revolution is taking over. And then we get our main event. And there's an injury. Wonderful. In a bout that had fantastic heat, Hogan won by DQ when Sid Vicious ran in and attacked him. Sid makes the defense number 2 of his title, but Sting has sustained broken ribs from the Hulkster. Wonderful. Creative finish was a success. Hogan penalised for his personal issues. Actually, both men put in a really good, solid performance. 67 segment rating is very, very good, though. And not quite as good as the previous match, but up there. Very much so. Orndorff saying that Sting sustained broken ribs. Yep, we know that. After the bell, Sid lays out Hogan and Sting. But Vampiro and Luger rush down to the ring to make the save. Vampiro checks on Sting, helps him to the back as Luger and Sid get into each other's faces. Hogan is still the same champion as always, but only just. That closes the show with a 48 segment rating. A little bit disappointing, but there we go. Angles apparently are terrible. 65 overall for Nitro, though, is not bad in the slightest. It's increased our popularity in 31 regions and only lost its popularity in 2, so that number is coming down. 2 good matches, a 67 and a 71. Are excellent. Injury review, though. Bam Bam is out for a couple of weeks with a bruised kidney. He can work through it, but he's out. Sting is broken ribs, so that probably puts him out of the match at Uncensored. I don't know what match we're going to have at Uncensored now, but potentially. And Conan's got chronic shoulder pain as well, which happened on Thunder. He's going to be out for basically 3 months, which is... Well, they can all work through their injuries, but... with issues. Sting will probably still have to wrestle at Uncensored, but there we go. Okay, finance-wise, we've made 100k on the show, which is not that great, but never mind. Excellent. Popularity recap. It's just the Mid-South and the South-East now that are falling down. Everywhere else across the world is going up. Fantastic. Right, we'll have a look as whether that was our best match of the save. And we'll see where we go from here. Obviously, it's March very soon. We've got 1 day left of February, but there we go. Bam Bam Zingler injured. Benoit doesn't like Disco Inferno. Conan's injured. Yep, Sting's injured. TV-wise, excellent, 4.93. I don't know whether that's good or bad or indifferent. But there we go. Top 100. That Nitro, actually, is the joint best show we've done. Match-wise, it was. It was the first match to breach the 70 mark. Benoit pulling in a great performance out of Savage. Benoit's up there, actually, with a couple of good matches. Sid Vicious and Scott Hall have had a couple of really good matches as well. Nash and Hennig in the cage was our previous best. But there we go. So we've had a new hardcore champion to go along with our cruiserweight champ. Steiner obviously won the US title last week. Hogan is the champion with his creative control clause. We're going to have to try. I think we might have to just take it off from him in an angle, to be honest, because that might be the only way we do things. And there's the tag champs, the Revolution. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week with the next installment of Nitro on the chaotic journey that is WCW 2000. Make sure you are subscribing to the channel, liking the video. Check out the Local to Glory save as well from 1992 here on the channel as well. And I'll see you next week for Nitro, if I don't see you beforehand. Thanks for watching.